Freedom the people them want, freedom the people them need, yeah, yeah. Freedom the people them want, freedom the people them need, yeah, yeah. Freedom the people them want, freedom the people them need, yeah, yeah. Real man a road, now bow wolf in a tree grand a road, now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road, now bow wolf in a tree grand a road, now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road. Ready fi broke every chain, that when you free up the people, levitate. Jamaica member, you ever great. I fi burn up the fire upon every snake. Me give thanks in every way. God still a look down once see we safe. I see around the road, long time GLP and PMP I sell we out. Till I do the test even though we know the end result. If them coulda kill with them catch we and hang we know. No force, no coercion, me freedom in a step. No one fi rob we and kill we and feel them I go make it out. You know see the leeches, you know see the hands of the devil when sleep with. You know see the leeches, you know see the hands of the devil when sleep with. Yeah. Real man a road, now bow wolf in a tree grand a road, now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road, now bow wolf in a tree grand a road, now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road. Yeah, me drop the braffin now, and then I laughing now. What them talking about? Everything cement and we not talking growth. Jamaican intellectuals are marching now. Them couldn't get the last laugh, no them laughing loud. We don't need the small talk when we talking bro. We don't need them 5 grand, we need to part them now. Long time GLP and PMP I sell we out. Till I do the test even though we know the end result. If them coulda kill with them catch we and hang we know. No force, no coercion, me freedom in a step. No one fi rob we and kill we and feel them and go make it out. You know see the leeches, you know see the hands of the devil when sleep with. You know see the leeches, you know see the hands of the devil when sleep with. Yeah. Real man a road, now bow wolf in a tree grand a road, now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. Thank you very much to all of you who are on tonight, who have joined us. I'm looking forward to having quite a discussion with you as we talk about some recent event in the news, and in particular, how that you as a Jamaican citizen here at home, and even Jamaicans in the diaspora, we want to talk about a very important matter, but I don't want to give it away yet until the guest is on. I'm waiting for him to appear, and as soon as he gets on, then I will introduce the specific topic that we want to talk about tonight. But while we're waiting for guests to join us, let me just say a pleasant good evening to all of you, and to see if I can acknowledge a few names on the dashboard here. I'm seeing my good friend Annalicia Gillespie. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. I'm also seeing Maisie Miller. Welcome, Maisie. Glad you could join us this evening. Good night, Francine Lawrence. Good to see you on. JAK Witty. Thank you for joining us. Malcolm X the Great. Thank you, sir, for being with us tonight. Hello, Latoya Smile. Good to see you on. Thank you for joining us. And I see Christopher Young here with us as well. Um, yeah, so good night to you all. Moffat and what's this now? Lion rule the jungle without fear. Thank you, whoever you are. That's a pretty good name and introduction. And the jungle we're in right now in Jamaica is quite an interesting one, with crime going through the roof and a prime minister who is making a whole lot of promises right now, as if we can trust his promises. We've heard a lot of promises before from this prime minister, from before 2016 until now, none of which have been fulfilled. So we have learned that we can't trust the prime minister's promises. As a matter of fact, we can't trust the promises of prime minister, opposition leader, or any of the two traditional parties. So good night again to all of you. I'll acknowledge a few more. World class, Island Mix, welcome. Judith Black, good to have you on. Hello. Joseph French, one of our strongest supporters from a while back. Good to see you on, Joseph. Wonderful. Who else I can see here now? Uh, Anne Marie Henry, Marlon Creary, I think it is. Leo Lord, and my good friend Craig McKenzie over there in Toronto. Wagwan, Toronto. I know you guys are suffering from a lot of snow, I think, and a pretty cold environment right now. It's going to get colder as the time progresses into January and February. Welcome, JMH. Good to see you. Wendy Williams, thank you for joining us as well. A pleasure to have you on. FAIM Hub. Uh, oh, Craig said the snow just stopped. Wonderful. Well, today it was a balmy sunny day over here in St. Elizabeth. We didn't get any rain today, no overcast. It was a nice, um, cool day. Very bright though. We had lovely sun here today on the farm in St. Elizabeth. Didn't get much time outside today working because I had some accounting work I needed to finish up for some clients. So I was busy inside. But I did have a lovely guest come and visit me about what? About 3 o'clock today. Um, I had an unusual, unexpected guest, and this was somebody from one of the two major political parties. And we had a very good, friendly, courteous chat, exchanging ideas. I must admit, I did most of the listening. I was just soaking up the information because the goodly gentleman wanted to share his thoughts. And you won't believe it, but the UIC has some fans in both of the two major political parties. I mean, serious fans, at high levels in the organizations who I would say kind of want us to succeed because I think deep down they're tired of the system as it is. Many of them has been in it for many years, and they know that it's not working. They have tried their best. Some of them they meant well when they went into politics, but the system crushed them. You see, the system drains them. The system they discover that it's not a bed of roses. It's actually almost like can I say it? It's like when you join these parties, you've joined a cult. Yeah, it's a cult of some sort, and you get sucked in, and you find that you might not be able to easily be who you are, who you want to be. So I advise anybody who wants to help to fix Jamaica, please do not join any of the traditional parties. It will destroy you as a person. You want to be a part of the UIC because we're totally independent of either parties. We love the people, but we hate what the parties have come to stand for and the system that they have come to embrace. You know, one of the things that amazes me when I look back at our history as a country is the fact that we had some very bright people, around the time of independence, very bright people that were a part of both of the two traditional parties. And for the life of me, I can't understand why is it that they chose to continue with the colonial system. They saw how that system was working, prior to 1944. They saw it in self-governance in 1944. They saw it in leading up to and after independence. And they kept the system up to this very day. Now, I see many people jumping and shouting for joy because Barbados have now become a symbolic republic. And you ask yourself, how is it that Barbados, only 55 years old, and Jamaica going on 60, has not changed to this republic? Uh, well, I hate to have to burst the bubble a little bit, but Barbados did not become a republic. Um, yeah, Barbados is not a republic. It's a fake republic. I know some of you don't like to hear me say this, but I have to tell you the truth. Barbados is a fake republic, just like Guyana. Guyana is a fake republic, and Trinidad is a fake republic. And China is definitely not a republic, not even a fake one. It is totally not a republic. So even though you have countries calling themselves republic, it doesn't mean that they are republic. And since I'm waiting for my guest to come to talk about the real subject, I'm going to talk a little bit about this republic issue. What is a real republic? Yeah, what is a real republic? Simply electing a president in place of a governor general and removing from your constitution an explicit statement of association with the monarchy does not make you a republic. There's there's much more to it than that. But we're gonna have to pick that up another day because right now I have my guest waiting in the waiting room to come on, and I'm really looking forward to having this gentleman join us tonight to talk about something of profound importance to every single solitary one of us on this live tonight. So, by way of introduction, my name is Joseph Patterson, and I am the president of Jamaica's third registered political party, the United Independence Congress, which is really a movement more than anything else. We're only a party because the system requires us to be one in order for us to assume government and lead Jamaica out of slavery. Yes, out of slavery. We have not left slavery. We may have taken off the physical chains, and we don't have somebody obviously standing over us with a whip, but my God, they have whipped us with bad governance. And we're going to talk about one aspect of that bad governance tonight, which has affected every one of us. What I'm going to talk about tonight affects every single one of us. That's why some of us run away to other countries. That's why many of us want to come back home and can't come home because the system of slavery, the colonial mindset, the colonial institutions, the colonial way of organizing and managing a country continues to persist. And so tonight I want to talk with somebody who understands one element of this very, very well. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to my guest for tonight. I'd like to welcome Corporal Rowan James. Good evening, Mr. James. Can you hear me?
Good evening, Mr. Patterson, and to your listeners and to my hardworking colleagues. I'm trying to get this volume thing up low.
Yes, your
Not
volume
sure
is a
why it's
little
not
low. I can hear you clearly, but
volume
it's not as.
extremely low.
Yeah, it's getting better. Just maybe talk into the mic a little bit more, like, or raise your voice. I know you have a strong voice, and I heard you on TV the other night, and your voice was quite powerful. So
I don't.
while Corporal
Let
James
me
is
try
fixing his mic,
and figure out what is happening, why it is this low.
yes. So while Mr. James is fixing, let me tell you a little bit about Mr. James. I'll let him introduce himself. But Rowan James, Corporal Rowan James, is the chairman, if I understand correctly, the chairman of the Police Federation. So he was elected by his fellow police officers of the rank and file to represent them, to speak on their behalf. So when he speaks, he's speaking for all of the members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force that forms the rank and file element of that body. And so Mr. James is going to tonight share with us what it is that the Police Federation is fighting for at the moment. What is the big issue before the courts at the moment? And how it's affecting them in terms of the government failure to address the fundamental rights. Yeah, these are fundamental rights, of the police, which have been violated, not for 1 year or for 2 years or for 3 years, but for, I believe, 13 years straight, in terms of the monetary amount. I want to play for you a clip from the TVJ News on the subject matter while Mr. James fixes his phone. If you can hear it when I start to play, just type yes in the comment box so I know that you are hearing it, because sometimes these things don't really work so well and I'm not so good at the technology all the time. So let's see. Let me see if I can get this thing playing for you. Oh, not that one. Here we go. I'm going to try again. Here we go. Let's see if we can get that playing.
Another deadlock. The ongoing legal battle between the Police Federation and the government could not be settled when the parties appeared before the Supreme Court today. A pre-trial hearing has been set for December 16, leading to widespread frustration and protest among the rank-and-file members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Now, we have team coverage. First, Kalisha Williams tells us what happened in court.
When these men and women of the Jamaica Constabulary Force left their homes for the Supreme Court on Thursday, they had high hopes.
We expected that the government would have honored its obligation to settle the outstanding matter, since it is that they are not challenging.
But those desires were dashed when, according to Chairman of the Police Federation, Corporal Rohan James, the government failed to deliver. The legal battle has been going on for 2 years now. In 2019, the Federation filed a lawsuit against the Ministries of Finance and National Security, the Attorney General, and the Police Commissioner, complaining that its members have been working more than 40 hours per week without being paid. The Federation said that the unpaid overtime dated back to as far as 2008. However, in court today,
They are prepared only to settle from 2018, which is a travesty of justice, knowing that they have acknowledged that these monies are in fact owed to the membership.
So now a pre-trial date has been set for December 16, with the trial expected to begin between January and April 2022.
So right now it's a somber mood among the rank and file members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. They're hoping that the matter will be settled before going to trial.
The Federation is not prepared to sacrifice the members' hard work that they have already earned these monies, and many members would have lost their lives, and we expect that their estates will be compensated accordingly.
We were told police officers traveled from as far as St. James and Westmoreland to come to the Supreme Court Thursday, a sacrifice they were willing to make to show that the Federation's position is well supported. In fact, the crowd was so large that the Federation had to marshal everyone to the waterfront to update the members on what took place in court.
It reminds us that unity is strength, and that with unity we can achieve the feat. I am saying to you today that we will not relent from our position, that we have earned our salary through overtime worked, and the government has a responsibility to us to ensure that that compensation is made. We are not going to sacrifice not $1.
Reporting from downtown Kingston, I'm Kalisha Williams for TVJ News.
Yet another deadlock. The ongoing legal battle between
So there you have it. Let me see if Corporal James is now able to join us. Corporal James, any better?
It's still low. I don't know if it
I can hear you, man.
appears to be
We'll
from my
talk.
end.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I'm hearing you a bit.
All right. So once you can hear me, and I'm going to raise my voice a little bit, that's good enough, and I can hear you. And I'm sure my listeners and viewers can hear you as well. But let's do a mic check. Viewers, can you hear clearly? Can you hear the corporal clearly? Corporal says something else, no? Sir James, just
Yes,
introduce
I'm
yourself.
hearing you.
Yeah, introduce yourself for our listeners so they can hear you.
Rohan James, a corporal, chairman of the Jamaica Police Federation.
Hmm. Wonderful. And Mr. James, we just saw a clip from TVJ that showed that you are fighting for some back pay. Can you just, in summary, tell us what's happening here? How long, how much, and why?
Since 2008, through the recognition of a heads of agreement that was signed between the Jamaica Police Federation and the government for the contractual period 2008 to 2010, the government then first recognized that police officers were working in excess of 40 hours per week and was never being compensated for overtime. And during that period of the contract, the government determined that the through the consensus of the Federation that they would initiate a payment of added hours for a contingent arrangement that should last for the contractual period pending the implementation of a structure mechanism to capture the hours actually worked so that members could be compensated. Uh, to date, since 2008, notwithstanding several heads of agreement signed continuously, the government up to today's date have yet to implement such a system or mechanism. And consequently, in 2009, uh, it was determined in 2019 that enough is enough. And in 2020, May, the, the Federation, through Council, placed the matter before the court for a determination and several declarations. And we also are seeking redress from the court for compensation because our officers are working far in excess of 60 hours up to 90 hours per week, and the contingent hours for which the government pays is a mere 10 hours per week. So, and there are some other issues surrounding the same for added hours for which we are also seeking the court assistance so that the members can be properly compensated at time and a half.
So let me understand something, Corporal James. You mentioned contingent hours of 10 hours per week. What is that? Just break that down for our audience here.
The contingent hours is hours worked in excess of the 40 hours per week, and
Hmm.
it is also expected that those hours would be utilized in the advent of necessity arose when you when you would have completed your tour of duty and
Hmm.
abilities. Those hours would be utilized, but members are being detailed for the hours, and you'll find that
Oh,
oftentimes how it is that law enforcement operates within Jamaica, there is never a certainty that on conclusion of your tour of duty you would be able to conclude.
okay. So if I understand correctly, from a layman's perspective, you have 40 hours as the standard hours, and there's a contingency of 10 hours extra, which should be something that comes up, incidentally, not on a normal basis. And you would not be compensated for that 10 hours normally if.
You are compensated for that 10 hours.
Mhm.
However, it is not at the rate that it is supposed to be, and there are other
Oh,
issues in that you are working far in excess of the 50
the-
hours. That's
right.
the 40 plus the 10. You are
Hmm.
working far in excess of those
What
hours,
what
and
is the rate? What is the rate for the extra 10 hours? Is it at time and a half, or is it at time? Or they giving you just
ti- it's
mm,
it's a flat payment, which is
mm-hmm.
25% of your basic salary.
Okay, so if you're getting, for example, $100 an hour, for this extra 10 hours, you'd have been paid 25% of that, so $25 an hour,
Yes.
for argument's sake. Okay. And then what they're doing now, that's no longer being contingent, it's being planned. So they're actually planning for you to work normally 50 hours.
Indeed,
Right.
and that is where I believe that the deception and the uncaring nature of
Yes.
our employer comes
So
in.
they're being abusive. They're actually, so there's a contingency of 10 hours, and they're abusing that by forcing officers to work the 10 hours and then paying them 25% of the standard rate for that extra 10 hours. So they're abusing that principle.
That's modern day enslavement, and it is clearly
Yes.
being practiced.
And then on top of that, now, beyond the 10 hours, they work you, say, 60 hours or 70 hours or up to 90 hours. And then
You
now
were
what they do, they don't pay you for that, or they just pay you
you
like,
are still not being compensated for those hours,
mhm,
and to add insult to injury, having placed the matter before the court, the government has seen it fit to want to negotiate away monies earned by the members, and
Mhm.
for which several members would have paid the ultimate sacrifice with their lives. And
Yes.
the federation at this time that I lead is not prepared one bit to sacrifice the members' hard earned cash. Their estate, be it
Hmm.
me that they would have passed in the execution of their duties, their estate must be so compensated, as well as the officers who retires. They should be compensated, as well
Hmm.
as those who resigned and left
Right.
the system. They must be compensated,
So let me
and that's a
understand
position that
something.
is non-negotiable.
Exactly. Let me, just for our listeners and viewers, how much money we're talking about here, approximately?
The figures are in the billions of dollars.
Hmm. So one place I checked, I heard between 38 and 45 or so $1 billion. Billion
It
with a
could be
B.
in and around that era.
Okay. Now this is across several administration, JLP and PNP. So this is not a partisan political issue. This is
Indeed, and that is why
yeah. Mhm.
for good reason, you hear me refer to our employer, the
Right.
government.
Exactly. Because that's what you are. I mean, all police officers are employed by the government. And so we have had successive administrations choosing to not pay police officers their due and trying to negotiate and then after that dictate their way out of this, because now we have seen where our government has become quite dictatorial. So they're trying to dictate to you, or and dictate away your money. Am I correct?
That is so correct.
Let's talk
And
about how this affect. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
of significant note, it is that uh, it whilst it is that the federation is willing to afford time, and I don't believe that we are prepared to go beyond certain amount of years. We recognize that the spending power of the dollar is fast eroding, and consequently, members' earnings should mean something to them, and
Mhm,
we are prepared where the government is saying that there are limitations. We
mhm,
have alternative recommendations that we would love to offer to them. Uh,
mhm.
what
You want
we
you
would
want to
not
share
want
some
to
of those?
posit,
You
we would
want
not want to posit those recommendations in the public domain, since it is
okay.
that I operate on the premise and the principle of good faith in the
Absolutely,
interest
yes.
of not only the membership but the people of Jamaica.
Absolutely. One of the things that I hope. So you just mentioned a while ago that inflation is eroding the the purchasing power of the Jamaican people, including our police, our nurses, our teachers, our doctors, our employees across the country, and even business owners. They're suffering too, because when you buy the goods today and you have to go back tomorrow to buy it, and the price is higher, as a businessman, you're suffering too. So inflation is eroding away the purchasing power of the Jamaican people. How do you see that impacting your negotiation with the government at the moment?
It has tremendously impacted the expectation and what it is that the government is offering. It is that the government is offering a 4% increase, and from a position just by using what the PIOJ has posited as the inflation point to date, which is 8.5%. It is that the constable who is gravely affected by the depreciation of the dollar and inflation, uh, earning a salary of $70,000 with an offering from the government of 4% of, which means 2,801 or $125 27 cents per day, before tax, and that figure is before tax, I must say. Not even can afford.
Yeah, you're frozen. You're frozen, Corporal James. I don't know if you can hear us. But people, this is wickedness.
Would
The
be gravely
government.
affected
Oh, good. hmm Yeah. Sorry,
in
we
that
lost you. We lost you for a second, Corporal James. We didn't hear what you were saying a while ago.
the member would be gravely affected out in the rural area,
hmm
especially in Jamaica,
hmm
St. James and Westmoreland, to be
hmm
specific. The cost of living adjustment out there is far higher for members operating in those areas, uh, to include St. Anne. And
hmm
I don't believe our employer understands the predicament that they are placing them.
Yeah, we lost you again. Yeah, my friends, we have lost Corporal
Membership
James.
in
Good.
when they dispatch.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Corporal James, go ahead,
Yes,
sir.
this sort of remuneration, it is virtually impossible for the constable to operate efficiently and effectively out in those areas. And I believe the time has come, since every administration successively have refused or please scant regard to the issue of remuneration compensation for officers, so that they can be enabled. The last time the constabulary force uh, was in receipt of any meaningful increase was in 1996 through an
Wow.
arbitration period that was led by then Senior Superintendent James Forbes, who was chairman then, that the force acknowledges any meaningful compensation remuneration. So it is that six compensation review conducted, and not even one has been implemented thus far.
Wow.
And I'm saying that the time has come for that to change. It cannot be that the constable and the rank and file continues to subsidize national security, when it is that the people of Jamaica is led to believe that the government, our employer, is doing everything amenable to ensure that they are properly protected and the resources are properly provided for the consular force to operate at optimal levels. And that is far from the truth.
So, Corporal James, let's make it real now for the people. Help us to understand the condition of life for a police officer in terms of his ability to afford a home, afford a car. I even understand that a police officer uh, may be disqualified from owning a firearm, a private firearm. He is allowed to carry a firearm as a police officer, but then he cannot qualify to get a firearm normally. Many of them are not qualified, not allowed to own a private firearm. Many of them cannot afford a vehicle for themselves. They can't afford a mortgage. They might be even turned down because they don't qualify based on their impoverished position. Help me to understand if what I'm hearing from other officers is exactly what your experience is, and what you're seeing among your membership.
Um, from information that have been garnered, and the numerous to the office of the Jamaica Police Federation, it is indeed true that several of our members, though they are serving the public in the capacity of the office of constable, they are seen and deemed by the firearm licensing authority as being unfit to to obtain a user to purchase and carry a firearm, which is an absurdity that needs to be remedied, because you cannot have persons serving and endangering themselves in the lawful execution of service to country. And the Firearm Licensing Authority seeks to want to deprive them of even the basic right to be born in
My
protection of
goodness,
their
that is.
families and self.
Let me just say this clearly for our viewers: the Firearm Licensing Authority (FLA) denies police officers who are licensed to carry firearms for the purpose of their jobs, but they won't give them a license to own a private firearm. You also have police officers who may retire from the force, um, and they have served their country well, and then they now want to retire, and they earn the right to retire, and they're retiring, and they want to own a firearm to continue to protect themselves and their families, and they will be denied by the FLA, even though they were previously carrying on behalf of the people of Jamaica, I would imagine, as a police officer. Is my understanding correct, Corporal James?
You are indeed correct. I've in the past several complaints have been made to the federation, for which we have made representation. A number of our hard-working colleagues have been left without that valued aspect of protection, and
Hmm.
we are hoping that something will be done in short order. The matter has been brought appropriately to the Minister of National Security, who has oversight responsibility for the Firearms Licensing Authority, and we believe that our case is compelling, and we believe that the our police officers must be given every level of support so that they can effectively carry out their task to the city. They too can feel protected.
Hmm.
They will not be left vulnerable, especially when you have to deal
I
with hardcore criminal elements in this society.
Yes, man. I think the criminals have more rights to firearms than you. But moving along, I recently saw a photograph of um, a policeman in a barracks, laying on a bed that is only fitting for maybe a dog, uh, in a room that was so looking really tardy, looking really uh, deranged, looking really substandard for housing, even temporarily, for those men and women in uniform. Was I seen correctly, Corporal James? Is that the condition of some of the barracks in Jamaica?
You have several facilities which reflects the poor living standard, and you would have heard me in several forums um, appealing to our employer to take a holistic approach to the issue of force efficiency, facilities, amenities, and other uh, basic necessities that would enable us to operate at optimal levels. Because the time has come for that level of a piecemeal approach, that the focus should now be shifted. I must admit that this administration has pumped resources into national security and have repaired several facilities and built several facilities and provide vehicles and so forth. But the inadequacies are so glaring that it cannot be treated with in the manner in which it is being approached. The time has come if for a holistic approach to be taken, similar to how the pandemic has been treated. With that, it is that our
Hmm.
employer must see the need that the constabulary force has the great remit of protecting the citizenry, and
Hmm.
the approach of not providing the resources for us to operate at optimal level has led to the social degradation of the society, and no longer it is that we can allow for our officers' hands to be tied because our employer failed to provide the resources. We have to now determine that we are not in a civil war. We are losing too many of our citizens to crime, are being murdered, and we need to be able to, one, pursue these criminal elements by proper investigation, and the focus on the resources and the capabilities must be afforded to us so that we can do our job effectively. We have the commitment of the men and women. It cannot be that you have a demoralized workforce because our employer seeks to add insult to injury and abuse by failing to provide us with the basic necessity so that we
Wow.
can.
How many officers are we talking about? Tell me some numbers about the structure of the force, because a lot of Jamaicans don't understand the way the police force is organized in Jamaica, and the number of police officers that we have, and different ranks, generally different ranks and so on. As the federation, how many police officers does the Police Federation represent?
In excess of 11,000 members.
Okay, so 11,000 members, and are they all treated
11,000 plus members, yes.
right? And are they all treated the same way? With is there equity, or do you have
The
different forms
inequities,
of, yeah?
the inequity is very much in existence because you find that at certain level the salary structure compensation for the rank and file, it is woeful for an inspector to be even afford a corporal in the Jamaica Defense Force with a basic salary of $216,000 as against an inspector of police in the constabulary force who earns a basic salary of $171,000. It is an indictment on the part of our employer to allow for these inequities, knowing that the responsibility and the functions of police officers on a day-to-day basis, it is overwhelming. So it begs the question whether or not we are serious about national security and supporting our law enforcement to enable them to effectively provide for their families and also to cater for the needs of the country and the citizens. It is that I believe that time has come for our employer to underscore and place more relevance and resources as well as remuneration so that the men and women of the constabulary force cannot no longer be ascribed as glorified security guards and high school dropout as our elected representatives would have classified us. We
Wow.
must move to ensure that we are seen as law enforcement agents and that we represent an organization that has the sort of pumps and pageantry, and we are a champagne organization. So we are not to be treated on a bank juice budget. We must be provided the resources so that we can see success and not failure, and to ensure that equity is across the board, and for citizens to be able to uh, have an opportunity to not only merely exist but to live in this society.
No, this is serious. Now, it is my understanding that the ordinary police officer has a hard time getting the basics. Buying a house, owning a car. Tell me about that. What are you seeing as the struggle based on the remuneration that police officers now receive? The ordinary police officer,
The
that
the
might
concept
push him. Yeah.
the
Mhm.
constable would uh, the constable in the constabulary force will find it very difficult if it is that they don't have a secondary income as the capacity through the salary compensation currently will never ever facilitate them being able to own a home due to the fact that the NHT structure is determined by point system and the
Mhm.
earned income being earned. will never ever afford them the opportunity to advance and to be a
Pause
homeowner.
for me. Pause for me. Are you saying that our regular police officer cannot qualify easily for an NHT loan to buy a home? Is that
Not
what
at
I'm
all,
hearing?
because not at all, because unless they are earning
God.
at a particular income band,
Mhm.
rest assured, we have even inspectors who up to 21 years service unable to afford a
Can
house.
after
Yes,
21 years,
yes.
after 21 years, a police officer may not be able to afford a home.
And when you look at what is happening in
My
society,
God.
these are commodities that our employer should view with much consternation, knowing that you are serving your country, placing your lives on the line, and you are not able to at least achieve.
So, Corporal
Uh,
James, the government is setting up our police officers to have to seek secondary jobs, have to seek to do something on the side, which means it is very possible that you may cause a police officer to be compromised because him can't just focus on respecting, protecting, and serving the Jamaican people. He has to be struggling with the idea that he might not be able to afford a home. Him can't take care of him family as any husband or wife should be able to contribute. And therefore, he or she feels compelled to have to engage in other activities to balance the budget of their lives. Is this the condition of a great many of our police officers? And how do you see that impacting their ability to work and to do their job to protect the
in matter
Jamaican
of fact,
people?
let me contextualize what it is that would be a much m- better position from the government, our employers' perspective, for them to take the police officers out the current cycle of the public sector uh, wage discussion, treat national security as priority so that the men and women of the constabulary force would not need to be seeking to gain employment or moonlight. They would be able to focus on the whatever hours they are working. They would be able to focus on the issue of pursuing crime, criminality, corruption, as well as to ensure that we build a society that is safe by engaging communities and to enable communities to be able to determine how it is that they are to be policed. So you would have that closer interaction and you would not have a frustrated bunch of police officers out there. You would have police officers who are focused and who are prepared to listen and they are not burnt out and they are prepared, they would be in a much better position to give human service to this
Absolutely.
country.
Absolutely. I mean,
Criminals
yeah.
criminals would be more fearful that they would be caught and
Hmm.
be brought to books
Yeah, man.
if that level of focus is given.
Let me just pause for a second and just say to everyone who is watching and listening tonight, you must share this video. Please like, share, and I see many of you are commenting, but we have to get this to all of the Jamaican people so they see the plight of our police officers, our men and women who are daily putting their lives on the line to protect us. They're being treated with scant regard. They're being underpaid. They're being compromised by the kind of remuneration that is being paid to them. And the government is putting your life and my life at risk and also putting our policemen and women at risk. Now, you might recall that on September 22nd, I went out there with a number of others, about 500 of you, to demand our rights. And when we talk about our rights, that includes the rights of our policemen, our teachers, our soldiers, our doctors, our nurses, right down to the handcart man on the street. Everybody's rights are important. And so today we're talking about the rights of our police officers. Mr. James, one of the questions that were asked that people wanted me to ask you is, sorry, I
Yes.
hear some,
Yeah.
yeah. They wanted me to ask you about the march that happened. When was your march again? Was it the 25th?
We were before the court on yes, the
The
25th.
25th, right.
We
And
were before we were the members had gathered to listen the outcome of the matter that we placed before the court.
right.
Yes.
And now we know you are the police, and then you're a significant part of the police. But persons were concerned about the fact that when other Jamaicans had marched, they were stopped by the police, and some of us were arrested. What was the difference between that march and yours? How do you see that? What was the difference there? They wanted to know if you had a permit, or if you needed to get a permit, or if there's a difference with the um the the whole
All right.
the
Let
whole
me
thing.
let me place it in context for you. The
Yes.
members gathered at the courthouse to ensure that they listened attentively to what the issues were, because they know that they have a substantive matter before the court that was likely to be in their favor. Upon the fact that our courtroom facilities doesn't make provision for that amount of persons to be in the court, uh, when we recognize that the members were there and we wanted to address them as to the outcome, we directed them down to Ocean Boulevard in the car park, where we addressed them and indicate to them what the outcome was, and also to re- urge them to continue to give service to the citizens of this country, and for them to understand that we expect them to treat the citizens with proper respect. We are stakeholders, and we believe that with partnership and citizens' participation, ultimately we can bring about a semblance of a safer Jamaica. So it was not merely about a gathering, it was also to implore and to express upon them that we must continue to give service, notwithstanding our uncaring employer continues to hold us in abeyance. We must continue to give service to the citizens, because they are vulnerable at this time, vulnerable in a sense, and we cannot afford for criminal elements to continue to murder our citizens and our colleagues, while it is that we are going to sacrifice them at the expense of a dollar. That was never our approach, and it was incumbent that I speak to them in that a firm position, and
Mhm.
to ensure that that reassurance to the citizen was also conveyed. Uh,
Well, no, thank you so much, Corporal James, and on behalf of the UIC and all of our viewers and listeners and the entire audience that's out there, I just want to say to you that we, the people of Jamaica, are very grateful for the service of yourself and your fellow police officers, male and females, across the entire police federation, all 11,000 plus of you who have been working hard to provide for the safety and security of the Jamaican people. I think we just lost Corporal Rowan James, who is the chairman of the Police Federation. Mr. James was sharing with us the plight of the police, how poorly they are being treated by their employer, the government of Jamaica, and not just the present administration, but the um, all administrations, particularly over the last 13 years, where they have been trying to recover overtime pay that they have earned, they have worked, and these monies have been held back by them, by the government, and not paid. I think it's now somewhere in the region of 43 to 45 billion dollars owed to policemen and women, some of whom have passed away, some of whom have already retired and are struggling now in retirement, many of whom are employed to the force right now and are unable to you know, have a decent standard of living because of the actions or inactions or inappropriate actions of the government of Jamaica. Welcome back, Corporal James. I was just saying to you before you drop off the call how much we appreciate and support the police. The UIC, as a government in waiting, give your absolute assurance that when we're in a position to do more than we're doing now, right now we're defending your rights, but when we're in a position to do more, it will be our mission to ensure that the police force becomes a police service and that we treat all police officers as professionals and pay you as professionals to do a professional job for the Jamaican people. And that is to respect the Jamaican people, to protect the Jamaican people, and to serve the Jamaican people. We need a police service. We cannot afford to have policemen and women who are struggling financially because that compromises them. We need to have our policemen and women being paid properly with appropriate benefits. Their overtime should be fully honored and respected. Their health benefits should be among the best in the country. Their housing arrangements should be such that their people want to be police officers. Their children should be able to go to school and get the full and best education possible. And we need to respect the fact that every day these men and women are putting their lives on the line for us, the people of Jamaica. So thank you again for your service, sir. Just one last question before you go. When the police gathered, were there any DRMA breaches at all as far as the
The
laws are?
officers who were gathered, they are all vaccinated,
Mhm.
and of course they were wearing masks, and they kept the social distance as would have been required by the DRMA protocols.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you
Yes,
so much for that. Is
you're
there
most
anything
welcome.
else you want to say to us before you go? Anything we might have missed that you want to just say to the Jamaican people?
We just want to urge the citizens to continue to partner with us that we can enable a greater service and safety to the nation. And that it is the Yuletide season coming up, and we would want to ensure that we do not continue on this murderous, treacherous path. We want to be able to turn things around in the interest of this country.
Amen. Wonderful. Thank you, Corporal James. And I can tell you, the people online who are writing, they are fully in support of you and the Police Federation. They understand what's going on more now than they did before. And they're expressing that you have very well represented the Federation. So thanks again, and all the best for
Appreciate
the
it.
Christmas
And
season. Take care.
thanks for the opportunity to bring to notice our education drive to the citizens of this country.
You're most welcome, sir. Have a good night, and we talk again soon.
You're most welcome, sir.
All the best. Well, there you have it, my fellow Jamaicans. The plight of our policemen and women, as meted out to them by their employer, our government, who we have asked to provide us with security. The number one purpose of any government is to provide for the safety and security of the citizens. That is the number one responsibility of any government. Any government which is unable to provide for the safety and security of its people is not worthy of the name government. And so far, across multiple administration, we have seen a consistent decline in the ability of the government to be able to create a safe and secure environment for the Jamaican people. In fact, the longer we have these two major colonial parties in power, is the more insecure our country has become. Our country has become weaker educationally, weaker from a health perspective, and weaker from a safety and security perspective. Our country has become even weaker economically. Our dollar continues to decline, inflation continues to rise, jobs continue to become less and less, and more Jamaicans are suffering from stress, depression, and all forms of acute poverty. It is so bad now that more and more of our young people are going insane. Depression is up, stress is up, and even suicide is up. My fellow Jamaicans, we can't continue much longer like this. It is not supposed to be this way. We don't elect governments to make our lives harder. We elect them to make our lives easier. But here's the problem. We have not been electing governments. Politicians have been buying the votes of those who continue to vote, while more and more Jamaicans are abstaining from the electoral process. The United Independence Congress of Jamaica, under my leadership, is committed to changing that. I'm inviting all 63% of the Jamaican population that has not voted in the last election. And I'm inviting those who did vote to, for the first time in the history of our country, vote for themselves and not for a party. Vote for Jamaica, not for a party color. Vote because you want, deserve, and must have a Jamaica that is safe, that is clean, that is orderly, a Jamaica which brings out the best in its people, a Jamaica that is no longer ruled by colonial powers, whether directly or indirectly, but a Jamaica that's truly free. Again, my name is Joseph Patterson, and I'm here to serve you. Thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to another evening with you when we talk about this whole business of a republic. I'll come back to explain to you why Barbados is not a real republic and why we must not allow Andrew Holness or Mark Golden to trick us into a fake republic and give us a fake constitution and once again carry us deeper and deeper into poverty, debt, and insecurity. Take care and God bless.